everyone. Welcome to Served. I am Andy. Jon Wertheim is here as always. Producer Mike, Techie Sean in the house. Guys, I just kind of realized we put out the show last week, taking a deep dive into Sinner, and obviously that was the news story. It's probably the biggest news story that we'll have outside of celebrating someone's successes for winning a slam and yada, yada, yada. But as far as a story that kind of generates interest in the mainstream and in tennis, the bomb went off, Sinner got suspended. We're going to spend this part of the show on the front end, kind of catching up on the last 2 weeks because we were largely negligent because we needed to cover the Sinner thing. I thought it was needed, not to give us too much credit. I think it was needed to really take a deep dive and talk about the moving parts, the how, the why, not just the what happened. I think we did that as well as we could. I'm still reading quotes from players, analysts, and they're going, "Oh, I don't understand why he just." I'm like, it takes 20 minutes to understand processes that are in place. If you wanted to understand it, you can. Now that might not change your opinion. You might get to the same place. You still might not like it, but I think if you put a little bit of time in and ask proper questions as opposed to being in a hurry to put out a loud opinion, I think you can get to a place of nuance, but we won't spend any more time on that. What we ignored last week, and I've kind of felt some guilt about it because both great stories in their own right, is we're going to turn back the clock. Amanda Anisimova wins in Doha. Biggest tournament win of her career. Obviously, she had taken some time away from the game, dealt with the death of her father a couple years ago into basically, I need to fix myself mentally to be able to compete. Removed herself from the game, which we'll see sometimes, not often early in someone's career, which at this point it's still early in Anisimova's career. To see her come back, the pieces fall together, was a huge prospect, made the semis of Roland Garros, 3 years ago, and now is top 20 for the first time. I loved watching her play. I thought she played really, really well. It was a well-deserved victory. And then in Buenos Aires, Aires and Buenos.
Yeah,
I'm going to get the comment section gets in my head anytime. That was great. Anytime I pronounce something wrong, I just instantly get tight because I know the comments are just going to smoke me. NBA, Joao Fonseca won the first of many titles. It's strange to see the way that the entire country of Brazil is already on board with this kid who is like 80 or 75 in the world. It's not as if he made the semis of a slam. It's not as if he made the finals of a Masters 1000. This is a 250, but it seems like the hype train has fully left the station and is in. I love the way he plays. There are a lot of things that I like and I can explain them. But JW, a couple of big stories with Anisimova and Fonseca from 2 weeks ago, and then we'll get to what happened this last week also.
Great stories, and I'm glad we're doing this. Were it not for the Sinner news, this would be the toast of tennis. And let's give everyone their due because there was action, there were titles, there were news events. Where do you want to go first? Do you want to say? Fonseca. What I love about him is that in this era we live in of big data, this is all about the eye test, isn't it? People just watch this kid play and they say, "Holy hell, is this a future champion?" One thing I like is watch the opponents. When he beats them, he beat Rublev, first round of Australia, as you predicted. Full credit. Rublev did not have this look on his face of like, damn, I just lost to a teenager. I'm going to go hide. It was more like, damn, this guy's really good. This is a future star we're watching. So as you say, it's pretty funny because, he's outside the top 50 still. What's he raised? He's like 68, still a teenager. And I think everybody that knows tennis watches his shot making. They watch the power on the forehand. He's got the Alcaraz thing where there's a nice little drop shot to leaven all that power. People just look at him and say, holy hell, this guy's a future champion, and the eyes don't lie. We can go to, Andreeva's a good story. Anisimova, I'm glad you brought her up too. I think she turns 24 during the US Open. So a lot of runway ahead. She's, this player who came within a few games of reaching a French Open final. She's beaten Sabalenka at the Australian Open. She's had some big wins, and she was very close to just saying, you know what? I don't need this. She took some college courses. She took some time off, cleared her head. Now she's back. A lot of runway there. These are great stories. So Madison Keys wins in Australia, obviously. And then we have Anisimova. So we have two big titles in the first 50 days of the year, won by two Americans, and neither of them are the top 10 players, Coco Navarro and Jesse Pegula, who we would have predicted. So there are great stories going on. It's just all been overshadowed and obscured by the number one player in the world facing a 90-day doping suspension. But I'm glad we're doing this. Let's give them their props.
The other thing about Anisimova that you want to mention is not everyone's timeline is the same, okay? So if you would have said 4 years ago, or it was 21 or 22 that she made the semis of Roland Garros, and you talk about the eye test, you're going, oh, this is this big, strong girl, woman who crushes the ball. And she took the racket out of Simona Halep's hand on clay, right? And you're going, oh, can't miss, prospect, right? There's not much that can go wrong here. And then if you would have fast forward and said, okay, in 2025, there's going to be 3 American women in the top 6 in the world, and there's going to be X amount in the top 100, top 20, and there's going to be kind of this golden era of American women's tennis that's going to happen quickly. You're going, oh, absolutely, Anisimova is one of those 3 in the top 6, right? Conversely, I don't know that you would have chosen, hey, Pegula at post 30 being top 6 in the world, making a Grand Slam final. Emma Navarro was in college, right? She's not one of the choices. So it just, there's no script. And that's the greatest thing about tennis and about sports is it's not predetermined. It's not written ahead of time. Anisimova may very well still be a top 5 player, but it's going to be on her personal timeline. Everyone has a bit of a different journey. I'm just happy to see her back, engaged, competing. It had to feel amazing for her to win that tournament and enter the top 20 for the first time, a place that she probably thought she would have, owned and not been kind of leasing and visiting at this point in her career. So props to her. And Fonseca, the one thing I'm seeing, and we'll get to Mirra Andreeva here in a second, but one thing I'm seeing with these young players that the standouts can do very well, and this wasn't a skill that was required, 25 years ago in tennis, is the ability to switch directions early in rallies. And I think they have taken the cues from the Novaks, from the Rogers, from the Rafas, how to hit behind people. Fonseca, I remember against Rublev, the last 2 points he played, just crushed the ball line. Like it used to be a risky shot, right? Andrey would do it and you'd be like, man, he can do it so well. He can take risks so well. Now it's like that's just what is done. And maybe it's the strings and the way the ball is manipulated. But this kid feels as comfortable going line a lot of times as he does cross court, where if you're the opponent, your split step and check down is, you've lost the ability to lean 80% one way because you can get so exposed. He moves well. I think he's going to defend better. I think a serve's going to get better. A lot of this is just done. The damage is done in the rallies right now. And if your weight of shot is that heavy at 18 in slower conditions where I'm watching on TV, and a lot of times when you're in person, you can see the differential. You could like Sinner's ball in person is insane. Now you get the eagle eye view above, and everyone kind of looks the same. You don't see arc, you don't see trajectory. Fonseca on TV looks like he is. You can see it. You talk about the eye test. You can see it on TV how much bigger his ball is being hit than the people he's playing against. And you're going, oh, okay, he still has 20% physical runway, and that's before we even get to the brain portion of learning how to play matches. I think the hype is there for a reason. Now, where I kind of struggle sometimes is this person a surefire top 15 player, top 10 player, or is he going to be someone who wins a major? Easier said than done. I think it's obvious that he's going to be a top 10 player. Now the journey starts to where, okay, let's see, does the serve improve? Is he able to return on fast courts? Is there, something outside of the clay? And when he gets to be set up, all things point to yes right now. But he's impressive. He's exciting. And Brazil is losing their minds about this kid, which is crazy. And it especially evident in the kind of run of South American events that are going on right now, John, that you're kind of pro, what they call it, the golden swing. I obviously never went there because it was played on the wrong surface for me.
I like the golden swing. Yeah, let's get to Andreeva in a second. But the other big winner of these last 2 weeks, I think, have been these South American tournaments. And these are precisely the kind of events that we're going to get blasted away by this premier tour that we talked about last year. And you say, look, are they majors? No. Do they have to pay money to get the top players? Yes. But you look at these highlights, you watch this on Tennis Channel, and the stands are full. The fans are really knowledgeable. There's passion. There's yelling. There are players getting mad at fans. It's really like a lot of flavor and color. I have been told that in the next few weeks, we will finally get this announcement about the 10th 1,000 level event. This is the one that Saudi Arabia has made as conditional for the, for the sports, for the Saudi Arabian money bag. We need a 10th event. Saudi Arabia is going to get it. It's likely going to be in February, which will save Craig Tiley and his January. We'll create a little Middle Eastern swing in February with Dubai and Doha. So those events might actually not be as upset as they are right now. Anyway, what does this all mean? It's a non-mandatory event, so players won't have to go, but it will be devastating to the other February events, not least the ones in South America. So sort of a bit of a storyline, but I think that the events in South America really distinguish themselves, and I think people realize in some ways this is pro tennis at its best. Engaged fans, they're watching doubles, they're doing the wave. This is not sort of the half-empty stands with a lot of big prize money at the end. I mean, this is really sort of an engaged this is really an engaged atmosphere, and I worry what is going to happen to that when you have 3 events, including 1,000 level in 2028 or whenever it starts in Saudi Arabia with that 1,000. Thoughts?
So I'm positive. I can only be positive that if they're adding another whole swing in another Masters 1000, that they're obviously taking something away at the back end of the schedule, right?
Yeah,
right.
There's
right.
I don't think so.
Right. So okay. So they're basically the ATP with adding this, and then just putting. I mean, there are 4 days between sanctioned events this year, and frankly, it's just bullshit. And I don't believe anything they say as far as wanting to fix the schedule, because actions and words. So fine, do whatever you want. Another Masters 1000, non-mandatory, like whatever. But this lip service about we have to fix the schedule and it's a priority. Nope. Not enough. And there's a simple fix, guys. You want me to fix everything?
Please.
Okay. What do you got?
We've talked about it before. JW, just back of the napkin guess, how many people qualify for World Tour finals using 250s? Like how 250s are irrelevant to the 8 players that are qualifying for World Tour finals. They don't affect qualification. And in the 1 in every 10 years that someone might sneak in by 20 points on a 250, should that dictate anything as far as scheduling? Bueller?
I know where you're going.
Bueller?
Keep going. You're right. I mean, 250s, let's just be clear. For the top players, if they're playing them at all, if they're even eligible,
they're getting paid.
It's just a cash grab.
Correct.
It's just a pay. Yeah, it's just a payday.
Or they're playing one in Australia before just to get matches after a long layoff. Those are the 2 use cases for 250. I wasn't sitting around as a player who was top 10 in the world or top 5 or top 3 going, I need to play this for my ranking. No, I need to play Brisbane before Australia because I've been off for 6 weeks. Or it's a cash grab. Move World Tour finals up 1 month. All the 250s in the fall. Put them on the back end of World Tour finals, right? Put them in November. Therefore, it is absolute insanity that the best players in the world, the top 8 players in the world who play the most, who play 70, win 70 matches in a year, also have to play the longest. These are your assets that are creating revenue for the rest of the tours. Singles, doubles, everything. These are the people creating the most revenue. They're the ones who should be able to decide at the end of the year if they're going to play more or pull it back based on a heavy workload. Conversely, the 250s, if you put a month of 250s at the end of the year, 5 weeks of 250s at the end of the year, run those through Thanksgiving at the 3rd week of November. Run those through because that's a choice. If I'm 70 or 80 in the world, 90 in the world, I want to play because those 250s matter for my ranking. Like they really matter, the points. And do you think the 250s are going to get better fields if they're the only show in town, or if there's one in Chicago and one in Singapore, do you think those fields are going to be stronger with or without the competition of 500s, 1000s, and World Tour finals going against them?
Boom.
Who loses in this situation?
No one. And those deals, and those 250s can make deals with the top players if they want.
If I'm a tournament director of a 250 and someone's trying to carve out an entire month where I get focus from Earth and from the players, and you're going to get Rublev sneaking in there to play. These guys can't help themselves. You're going to get really good players that are going to sneak in and play. And at that point, that's their call. They're not mandatory events. They can go play if they want to. No one's saying the top 8 players can't play in them. It just has no impact on World Tour finals. And yet we treat it as if it's this thing that, we can't have, World Tour finals has to end the year. We can't have tournaments after it. Bullshit. Anyways, that wasn't scheduled conversation. That was not on my notes.
I have a quick question to that though. All right. So with this new 1000 that's potentially going to be in February, what would your schedule then be if you were active right now? How would you treat it if it wasn't mandatory?
I don't know. Because I wouldn't. I don't know. The only thing that makes me think I'm not mad at the 1000 in February, to be clear. Like I do think the Sunshine Double that can probably stay, because I don't know that a lot of those players are going to want to go play on a hard court in Dubai against someone ranked 50 in the world. I just don't think that's the case. I do think they would probably do themselves a favor by switching that to a hard court at some point. And I know that's not the thing, but there's not a lot of top players that want to go hard clay, grass, hard. Like the switching of the surfaces matters. I would probably go over there and play. There's still probably some place to play Dallas and then go over and play something. I don't know is the answer, but that's a choice. It's non-mandatory, so I have no issue with it. If I choose to not go and I'm not getting those points, that's on me. This thing with World Tour finals being the third week of November and therefore being precious about everything is so stupid to me. And I can't get a great answer. And I've texted around to people who work for the boards, work for the ATP, and I'm like, why wouldn't this work? Well, we'd have to move a bunch of stuff. Great. Let's have surgery.
Yeah. I mean, the one pushback is these events say, listen, I didn't just buy an event. I bought a week on a calendar and I wanted this, whatever, in August, right before the US Open. I don't want an event in October, but I think you raise a really good point, which is your player fields will be better.
So much better.
It makes a lot. I think this is we can go as deep or as shallow as you want. I think this makes a lot of sense. And I think this is the rare wins across the board. Back channel and sort of cluster all of these 250s. There are going to be some injured players that want points. There are going to be some players who, hey, I could use, they'll get a better field and they won't have to pay as much in appearance fees and they won't get obscured by all the withdrawals and everything that comes with having a mid-season event. And players can go and it makes a lot of sense. Too much sense for tennis.
You're also going to get a little bit of a hype mechanism where, oh shit, Fonseca just ran off 3 250s in a row. Going into like the spotlight can be on up and coming players, comebacks. Like you can actually tell a story during these events as opposed to them they're basically all just ignored, in the lead up to World Tour finals because they don't have any significance. No one cares. Think about the players think about who we've just talked about in this pocket. Wouldn't Fonseca at age 18, as he tries to build some buzz and get some match play, that's the kind of player who would play a 250. Yes.
Amanda Anisimova took a mental health break.
Yes.
She tried to sort of figure out what the sport means to her. Now she's got to get her ranking back. That's a player who would play a 250 in November. It makes a lot of sense.
And you're going to get...
We can solve doubles. We'll solve doubles in the next 15 minutes, but that's great.
Oh, it's okay. Anyways, what I do want to say real quick, props to Rublev. He credited his kind of mental fortitude by winning in Doha. I think that's great. I think anytime he's an open book, which is one of my favorite parts about him, when he goes snap fooey, you feel for him sometimes. It's like, oh, come on, man. Just like you can see it kind of the water boiling over. Props to him. Great week. He needed a hard reset after losing first round in Australia, not having played great. It was great for him. If someone says it about themselves first, I have a hard I kind of find it difficult to criticize. Like, if Rublev says, yeah, I'm crazy, I'm working through some stuff, it's like, mentally unhealthy. What are you going to say? No, you're working through some stuff. If it's mentally unhealthy. No, great. Props to him. Way to go. You ready for it, JW? And I'm not the first because you tried to take her to a Grand Slam final last year. Mirra Andreeva is going to be number 1 in the world at some point.
Whoa.
Yeah.
But producer Mike, you got that?
I texted it to him.
I'm going to write it down. Yeah, he texted it.
I've got bad audio because I think I heard him saying number 1.
Yeah, he was gushing on text message.
Yeah, she's not. I mean, I watched her more this week continuously because normally it's in a slam. You're watching a million other matches, but she serves so much better than people give her credit for, and it's only going to get better. What I worried about was if she's not one of the physical phenom specimens of like a Capriati, a Davenport, a Venus, a Serena. The one I can think of who's an absolute phenom, at least in the not too distant past, is Hingis. But then got overpowered. So my biggest question about Andreeva was, is she going to be able to create enough pace not to get overpowered by a Sabalenka, a Swiatek? She's beaten both of them. She is an elite mover already. She creates enough pace. And what am I going to talk about again, JW, that no one does? Her ability to play against people's movement makes her shots bigger. She doesn't have to go big to go through you. Her preparation is good enough where she can pull the ripcord and play behind the women that she's playing against consistently. And or if the rally builds, she can stay in it and D up. She has options. IQ beyond her years. Conchita Martinez has done an amazing job guiding this ship, but she serves great. Like, she serves great. I watched, I'm like, why is no one talking about her? Maybe it's like an improved thing, maybe. And she still has 30% runway of physicality. She's going to get bigger, stronger, faster. It's not as if it's going to go the other way. She serves great.
You texted something and I was not watching the match, and you said exactly that. She texts great. And I didn't know if you were being sarcastic. I don't know if like the wheels had come off the serve, and then I looked at the serving stats in the final. I'm like, oh shit, you're right. There is a lot of upside. There's a lot of poise. There's a lot of maturity. In my next life, if I am if I were ever a felon, I would want Sinner's lawyer. If I were ever a pro tennis player, I would want Conchita Martinez as my coach. Her track record is pretty good. Did you hear Andreeva too say she was doing her thank yous when she won, and she said, "I'd also like to thank myself."
Yes,
but that was really a nice
great.
Bit of
good for you. You should.
Great bit of philosophy.
Perfect.
Exactly. Yeah, there's and I like what you said about movement. We had her at Roland Garros last year, and it's like forensic evidence in like the in a car crash. The lines on the back of the court where she was anticipating and she would stop and start, and you looked at the lines of her movement versus her opponents, and there were a lot of times where she would take a wrong step in one direction, recover, and still get to the ball in plenty of time. There were other times where she would read a cross court and she would start heading off before the ball was traveling over the net. There's a lot to like here that you can't teach, but it also seems like the stuff you can teach, she's open to learning. So you've trumped me picking her at number 1, but I can't disagree with that pretty with much vigor.
If I'm wrong, it's not by much. Like, I would bet $5 on it now. I like, who knows what happens between here and there. There's a million miles between she just got into the top 10. There's a million miles to get to number 1, right? But what I'm saying is, even a year ago, I'm like, she's going to get bullied around the court. We still have a lot to see. She can step in. She's pretty complete at this point. Her movement is great. Her serve is really good. She might miss shots. She might get overpowered in rallies sometimes. But for being as young as she is, I don't know, like 4 times when I was watching over the past 4 days, did I go, that was a bad decision? That's not a lot. She's already kind of figured out a lot of the hard parts of the game that dummies like me didn't figure out till a lot later. But yeah, I mean, I don't think maybe she listens to dummies like me too much, but it seems like she's pretty well insulated and pretty focused and pretty professional. But yeah, if I'm being hyperbolic about it, it's only by a little, right? I think a lot of her, and having watched her this week, I think more of her than I did 8 days ago. Her serve is really good. No one talks about it. Maybe it was a great serving week, maybe serving conditions, certain places you like certain things. Should we jump into this before we get to Michael Kosta on the other side? He's going to be on to promote his book, Lucky Loser. Career high 864 in the world, is now the host of The Daily Show. Obviously a natural career transition and progression, right? But he'll be fun to talk about. He was nice enough to help us out with the Asheville event we did a couple weeks ago. Can you quickly just read me the quote from Reilly Opelka?
I was being sarcastic. They should 100% get rid of doubles. It's for failed singles players. There's no such thing as a doubles specialist. They don't sell a single ticket. They take up practice courts, physio, resources. They don't turn a profit, and they complain that they don't make enough money. That's pretty greedy, if you ask me.
And that was not accidentally, he tagged Taylor Fritz in that?
Hey, tag Taylor Fritz.
Well, he tagged Taylor Fritz in a previous comment, and then somebody commented about it, and that was a sub-comment into it.
Okay. Listen, Reilly Opelka, love him or hate him, you rarely have to wonder what he's thinking, and he's certainly not scared to tell you what he's thinking. So regardless of if you agree with the opinion, I kind of like characters like Reilly who will just say what they think. I disagree with him on some of the stuff he says, but you don't have to wonder what he's thinking. JW, I'm going to let you have first crack at this.
I agree. First of all, we talk about bland athletes and cliches, so we should probably give someone extra grace when they speak the truth. I think he said the quiet part out loud. This is a discussion it's been going on in tennis for decades. There is a lot of sort of disgruntlement among singles players. I don't think you want to eliminate doubles. You've got your solution to the 250s. You want to hear my solution to doubles? Stacey Alistair sort of half went there and then didn't quite complete the pass, but we'll do that with her. You make these events back-end events. So the last few days of a tournament, the second week of a major. We need doubles. We need the sessions to be filled. We need these opportunities. What we don't need are double specialists. We don't need this culture of players that start out on the tour with no ambitions of making it as singles players. What do we need in doubles? We need familiarity. We need some names. We need some players who have earned their right. In 30 years ago, Todd Woodbridge was a very nice singles player.
Made the semis of slams. Mark Woodford made semis of slams. Park House made semis of slams. And the list goes on, right? It used to mean that you were better at doubles than you were at singles. Now it means something different.
Exactly. And we need to address that because, we don't want to see people put out of work, but this business model doesn't work. If you have a product on the shelf that doesn't sell, pretty soon you start not giving it prime shelf space. I think what we need to do is figure out a way to keep doubles, reduce doubles, encourage top players to play. An obvious solution is just have it wrap around the last weekend where guys that lose in the first or second round can stick around and earn some money and stay and enter doubles draws. Same thing at May. Look, we don't need the sessions the first week of majors. The first week of majors are chaos. We need doubles to fill sessions when it's that Thursday and we have a short singles match. So Reilly Opelka is saying get rid of doubles entirely. I don't think that. I don't think Reilly Opelka is necessarily the best messenger for this. I don't think getting rid of doubles entirely is advisable, but I do think he's tapped into something that there's some valid points there, and something's got to change. And I don't know if you saw Rohan Bopanna, a number of doubles players responded. But they didn't really respond by making a business case.
No.
They responded with these very poignant stories, which were feelings, exactly. They were, it was hard emotionally to take issue with what they're saying, but if we're looking at this rationally and we're trying to justify doubles economically, I don't think that really moved it much. So I don't think, there's an in-between here. They're what's the cliche? They're numbers between 0 and 100. I don't think we need to nuke doubles entirely, but the current system doesn't work. There's an obvious solution here that will incentivize singles players to enter doubles. It will get rid of this double specialist track, which I think does no one any good.
I'm going to ask some questions. How much prize money per week is generated? Do doubles players get? Out of a weekly pie of 100% of the prize money in any given tour event, how much do the doubles players get?
I've been told it's around 20%.
Okay. We don't have the official numbers on this, so we could be wrong. I would love to see them. I doubt we will. What percentage of revenue on a week-to-week basis does doubles bring in? Your best guess.
You want the devil's advocate? No, but you want the devil's advocate?
No, I want you to answer my question.
No, it can't. I mean, insofar as it's quantifiable, it's got to be negligible. I mean, you've seen the crowds.
Like 1%.
It's very hard. I mean, I mean, I don't know how we determine that, but how many fans say, yes, I'm going to go buy a ticket to this event, or I'm going to go watch? I mean, look, TV is driven by ratings. How often do you see doubles on TV? That's not because there's this amazing opportunity that TV's bypassing. It's because they have data that says this isn't what fans want. 5%, let's say.
5%. Okay. That's good. Okay, great. So the 5% is like we're making a case for 5%, and that feels high. They're getting 20% weekly. So if we're going to have a conversation about fairness, which I see in a lot of the posts from people defending doubles, then let's have a conversation about it using facts, not feelings. Okay. Secondly, is there a product on earth, guys? Okay. And everyone in the room, is there a product on earth that has been widely available for 50 years? It could be any consumer product, widely available for 50 years. People know what it is. So it's not about like user education. It's not about like anything else. It's just people don't use it. And then if you were the CEO of a company and someone came in and said, well, people know what it is. The data is telling us people are choosing not to see it, view it, use it. But that's because we're not promoting this 50-year-old product in the correct ways, even though everyone knows what it is. Name your product. Go ahead, producer Mike.
I really can't.
Techie Sean? Negative. JW?
Facebook glasses? No.
Those are 10 seconds
You're
old.
right. And it's a really good point, because this isn't some new product that you're not marketing properly.
Everyone knows what it is. Everyone knows what doubles is.
Yeah.
So it's not as if we're promoting, it's not user education, which, I've had to learn about and do in other business ventures. It's not as if you just have to teach people what it is, which has a cost also. Everyone knows what it is. And most of tennis fandom chooses not to watch it consistently or at all. So I'm not going to levy in that. I've asked questions before even getting to opinions, and it just makes for a really tough argument. I like Rohan Bopanna. I really do. I think he's a really nice guy. I admire what he's done. He's an inspirational story for the best of his career and life has come, at 43 years old. But he used the test case because of my ability to play doubles and because I've helped charities. Someone else may have done that too. Like it's not based in like maybe there was another singles player who would have done more. I don't know what it is, but I don't know that because you are a good person and have helped other people, it makes the use case for a disparity of 20% allocation for, I would guess, maximum 5% output. The delta of 15%, I don't know if it's paid off by goodwill or tradition. And that's the other thing. It's like, well, this is tradition. I'm like, well, listen, people used to work at Blockbuster.
I did.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just, it's not as if I don't feel bad. I like some of my best friends in the world, like, honestly, but the arguments have to be based in like a fact or a new idea. You can't just use vague terms like, well, we're not promoted. It's an old product that everyone knows about that nobody watches. Those are the now if there's an innovative thing like the mixed doubles, I don't know if it'll work. I suspect it will, but it's something different to try as opposed to just letting something bleed out.
Yeah, that's the answer. I mean, we ought to have the capacity for creative solutions. A former player put it to me like this the other day, and I like that. He said, I don't want Rohan Bopanna to be out of a job. I want the next Rohan Bopanna to be out of the job. We need to stop this pathway of players joining the tour with no ambitions of playing singles. But I think there are creative solutions here. I like playing doubles the latter half of matches, the latter half of tournaments. We can keep discussing it later.
Solution, the problems are easy, solutions are tougher. I think we should start talking about solutions. On the other side, someone who has solved the problem of maybe not making it to the highest levels of professional tennis by fucking becoming a host of The Daily Show. Michael Kosta on the other side is going to tell us about his new book, Lucky Loser, that's out March 10th. Is that right?
11th.
March 11th. I was close. March 11th on the other side. I think this is a fascinating story. Someone who can tell you about the grind of trying to make it in professional tennis, but also, how to make people laugh. Michael Kosta on the other side. All right, welcome back to Served. Fun guest today, at least we hope. Funny guest anyways. Michael Kosta, a host from The Daily Show, is on with us, and people are saying, well, why the hell are you having a Daily Show comedian on your nerdy tennis podcast? Michael Kosta, Division I tennis player, played at University of Illinois, 864 in the world, tried to make it as a professional tennis player. Michael, that's the obvious path to becoming a stand-up comedian and a host of The Daily Show, right?
It surprises me even how I got here. Yeah, but I mean, Andy, you're alone. You're trying to solve problems. It hurts a lot when you lose. That's comedy. That's comedy too. Even when you have a good comedy performance, it's much like tennis, and it's like, well, get ready for the next one.
Yeah, we don't have long memories. You always got to survive each time. I'm going to do this early and often. Lucky Loser is the book, March 11th. It comes out, a Tennis Anyone podcast, michaelcosta.com.
Thank you.
For a comic, you're certainly leaning backwards into the tennis stuff, right? You write there's a full book. You go into matches you played when you were 10 years old in a lot of detail in this book. You talk about how you're a cheater. There are a lot of things. Walk me through what you chose to put in this book and why.
Yeah. Thank you, Andy. It sounds like you or somebody actually read some pages, which is a privilege and an honor to hear. I find, and comedy taught me this, that even though hyper-specific experience often resonates to so many people in general ways. And me describing a match I lost, the 10 and unders, where my brother had to come out on the court and hold me as I cried into his shoulders. It's really, also there's a picture of it in the book. And I'm now, as a parent, I'm going, that means my parents took a picture of me crying into my brother's arms. I just think people relate to failure, to a path that's unknown to them, and also a lot of why I wrote this book was I wanted to remind myself to how I ended up doing comedy. And so much of it stemmed from my foundation as a tennis player.
There are a lot of comedy fans out there. Yeah, I'm laughing at there are a lot of comedy fans out there that are going to pick up this book and they're going to hear a lot about Kalamazoo and and Western Grips and Craig Tiley. But I want to go back because I think we've talked about this before and how there's some real parallels to you're pinballing around and you're up on stage and you're trying to get your ranking. I mean, the journeyman, the road comic versus the journeyman tennis player, there's some real overlap. I think Andy made this point too. The difference is that in tennis, there's a scoreboard. How do you sort of cope with comedy where, I don't know, I think someone's funny. I like Roy Wood, but to other people, versus there's a winner and a loser. And no one's arguing that Mirra Andreeva won a tournament last weekend. People can argue about whether John Mulaney lived up to the hype or didn't.
And this is my biggest frustration with comedy. And, Andy knows how often I yell out my career high world ranking, 864. But it's so beautiful that there's a sport where you know what your number is. I know exactly what my number is. And man, when I first started comedy, I would stand in the back of the Comedy Store in LA and I would hear these guys walk off stage and go, "Oh, I killed. I just crushed that audience." And I go, "Dude, that sucked." Nobody laughed at that. But you can do that in the arts. You can lie. You can, and there's no hiding from that in tennis. Comedy is more susceptible to marketing and promotion. I mean, as all arts are, and that is such a brilliant, beautiful part of sport. The scoreboard is right there. Remember the juniors? Oh, it was a good loss. And it's like, you lost 2-1. How was that? You lost. So,
yeah, but those 3 games I won were fucking building blocks. I'll tell you that much right now.
Yeah.
Michael, talk to me about this because you beat me to my next question, which is basically, you can't lie to tennis. You just can't. You can't fake it to tennis. Doesn't matter what your background is, what advantages you've had. Maybe training was a thing, but once you actually step onto the court, it kind of is what it is. Now, walk me through a little bit of your journey in tennis, because I remember you saying over and over in Asheville, and I started thinking about it and couldn't get it out of my head. You were kind of sarcastically, but kind of not, saying 864. He was signing his autographs that day, and mind you, like, he's standing next to, Pegula, Navarro, our hero Andre Agassi on that day, writing 864 on it. But also it seemed like there also was a little bit of pride. You said I made $11,000 in 3 years, and my point to saying all this is, it feels like if you're in the arts, you can point to George Clooney and say, you know what, my big break is just around the corners. It doesn't happen for some people until they're 40. How did you lie to yourself for those 3 years when you were trying to make it?
Oh man, it is tough. That's a very hard-hitting question. I knew I had a good serve, so I was like, I think I can kind of get hot and serve my way every once in a while. The problem is, if anybody got the serve back, I was stuck hitting a forehand and a backhand, which weren't my strengths. But
yeah, I feel you.
I raised money. My father helped me sell shares of my future tennis earnings, which granted wasn't a lot, but I had $176,000 to spend on my tennis.
You raised $176,000 for yourself to play tennis?
Yeah, exactly. So I was really, really excited about the opportunity to see what number I could get to. Now, granted, it was, a failure, if you want to call it that. But what I do find so often, Andy, is so many people in the tennis actually don't laugh when I tell them my ranking. They go, wow, it's actually pretty good. I've done all this stuff for the Tennis Channel. I loved sitting with Andrey Rublev and Pegula, and I would tell them my ranking. They would kind of go, oh, it's pretty good. It's the non-tennis people that I say my world ranking to, and they laugh. And they go, I didn't even know they ranked that many. And I always go, well, what was your ranking? So eventually I ran out of money, and eventually what really happened, I talk about it in the book, I saw people that were 5-6 years ahead of me playing futures, playing challengers, and I said, fuck this. I can't be wearing the same faded shirt. I can't be asking Prince for a few more free rackets. It looks miserable. It looks terrible. And I said, I'm out. And that's where, in an odd way, I had all these journals of jokes that I had written while waiting for matches. Or if I'd lost first round of a future, I had 6 days and I would write jokes as just a way to kind of decompress. And those notebooks first turned into my first comedy set.
It's funny because reading through the book, and our tennis journeys weren't in parallel, but there are certain parts I could relate to. One, you named all of your teammates just by first names, and I can name all of their last names immediately. And I have, right. Some people I haven't thought of in a long time. The story, and it probably will be lost on the audience listening a little bit, because a lot of it is familiar, but when you cheated Andres Pedroso, you literally couldn't have cheated a more saintly human being. You admit to just hooking this guy who is now has been a very successful collegiate coach. And if you're like Andres Pedroso is not in my daily orbit, never really has been. We crossed over a little bit. But if you're like, who's one of the top 5 nicest people on earth? I'm like, oh, well, Andres Pedroso is number 1. And then, but it's all kind of relatable. You saying I was I wanted to hit a serve and hope that it didn't come back. I'm like, oh yeah, I get that too. So regardless, irrespective of kind of different levels and who got to where, a lot of these stories are very relatable. Even, I had a completely different tennis jersey. I experienced Craig Tiley on the tournament director side. You experienced him as a coach. So for me reading it, it still felt like a very small universe and world.
Thank you. That was the point. That's the goal. So many people outside of the tennis world, publishers, comedians, when they hear tennis, they go, I don't want a part of that. I don't want to just I don't want to buy a book just about tennis. I kept promising people, I know tennis is in the title, kind of. It is entertaining. People will relate. The fact that Andy Roddick, world number 1, just said that we had somewhat similar parallel paths I'm hoping means I proved the point. I saw Andres Pedrosa at the U.S. Open 2 years ago, and I walked around the stadium so I didn't have to run into him. I mean, that's how badly I still feel. 25 years later, I don't even know what to say to the guy. So I wrote a chapter about it. Hopefully he reads it, but I do apologize to him officially. And yes, one of the nicest guys ever. And leave it to me to somehow cheat. One of the nicest guys ever.
You're the Carlos Mencia of line calling. Come on. Wait, go back to what you said. So you have a $176,000 bankroll. That's pretty good. I mean, I was looking, and I don't say this pejoratively, but I think your last result, I looked it up on the ATP website. $118, Mississauga. That's a tough life. And you say, I see these guys and they're I'm thinking of challengers. You've seen these guys are 5 years older than you. They're not making progress. And then you say, fuck that. I'm done with tennis. I'm going to go tell jokes at Giggles in Toledo, Ohio. I think, do you remember? I think it was Columbus, Ohio, right? Where we first met?
Correct. I think you came to see me at Columbus, Ohio at the Funny Bone.
At the Buffalo Wild Wings.
I still remember your first joke.
Right.
I spent I spent last night in La Quinta Inn. That's Spanish for shithole near the airport.
Yes.
And he's laughing at that. No, but seriously, you're done with tennis and you say, I can't be bouncing around like this. And then you embark on a career where you're bouncing around again, trying to work your way up.
Yes, but tennis had this incredibly important bridge for me. University of Michigan was hiring a new head coach, and they hired Bruce Burke, who's now the head coach at University of Texas. And Bruce was my assistant at Illinois. And so I had a soft landing in that I could go back to Ann Arbor. Bruce hired me as the assistant. Now, when he hired me, that afternoon, I drove to a music shop and bought a microphone and a microphone stand because I wanted to start pursuing comedy. So it's not a good sign when your new hire plans on his next career that day. But Bruce didn't know that. And tennis coaching at Michigan served this beautiful bridge for me because Ann Arbor is this wonderful arts town, college town. There are open mics. There are comedy clubs. And so I would coach tennis all day, up with the team at 5:30 a.m., doing weights, lessons, practice, and then I would get in the car and I would drive to these stand-up. But John, the bottom line is, man, as soon as I did comedy, the choice was over. It's just you get bit with it. It's done. It just consumed me, and it's all I could think of. And so much of that was so beautiful to feel, because at that point for me, tennis, which may have been fun and may have been passionate for me at some point, that was gone, man. Nadal always talks about how much he loves the sport, and I just go, is that true? And maybe Andy can answer that, but how do these guys actually love it this long at this level? Because I ran out of love pretty fast.
Nadal is, and without getting too sidetracked, but we'll just nerd out on tennis for a little bit. Nadal, for a while, I would sit here and I'd go, he was so beautifully simplistic in the way that he would answer questions, right? So it'd be like 2008 at the French Open. He hasn't lost a set there in like half a decade. And someone would go, well, you play so-and-so first round. What do you think? He's like, and the guy's like, a really good player. He's like 80 in the world, but there's just no chance that it's going to be an hour and 10 minutes. And he's going, well, if someone goes, I just have to play my best, keep my head down. And for so long, I was like, he's so full of shit. Like, there's just no way. He has this unbelievable, now when he says the all-time record, it would have been nice, but it's not something that I think about. He goes, I go out. He goes, very simple. I go out, I prepare, I do my best, and that's where it lies. And I go, I have no idea what you're talking about. Like, I don't understand. I got to sit down across from Roger a year after I retired, and I basically made the point that the best athletes of all time up till that point, so you're looking at Jordan, you're looking at Lance Armstrong would throw 1 million people under the bus to keep his secret, right? Like, really ruin people's life. Like, that's and you said in your book that you had a guarantee that you wouldn't have been caught, you would have done steroids for sure. But Michael Jordan punched a guy in the nose in practice and broke his teammate's nose. And I said, Roger, no one ever says that about you. You're the greatest of all time right now. But he looks at me, and with this very simple thing that made me furious, but we were on air, so I couldn't even react to it. He goes, yeah, you know what? People just always tell me that they're like, I hate to lose. He goes, honestly, I just like winning more than I hate losing. I'm like, isn't that fucking great and beautiful and simple
Right.
for you? Like, to your point, I don't understand it. And everyone was stunned in Andrey's book when he opened the book by saying, I hate tennis. Now, it doesn't mean he hates tennis all the time. It means he hates certain memories, certain relationships that caused harm because of tennis. But to your point, it's isolated, right? But now you've gone into something else that is also isolated, but you talk about one like you can't kick it. I love it. And you talk about the other form of isolation, and it seems like there's like a stress mechanism in play. Now, talk us through kind of the differences in both of those.
Yeah, I mean, it really comes down to art form versus, sport, in the sense that, man, I entered the comedy world competitive, judgy, like a coach, like a player, and it's taken me 20 years plus of comedy to remove that. Watch the next comic after me, before me. It's okay to laugh at them. It's okay to say, oh, what a great take on that joke. They're not competing with you. You're not in the same tournament and someone wins the trophy. It's like if I'm a violinist and you watch another violin, oh, wow, that's beautiful the way they approach that. So that's been very hard. A lot of undoing I've had to do because of this is an art form, comedy, and sport. It's just, man, you versus them. At the bottom, the end of the day, it's fun taking someone's face that goes like this and then making it go like this. That's literally what I'm trying to do. It's fun for once in our lives at a comedy club. And I do it every night in New York City. People are in the present moment laughing at something. And man, when you're laughing, you're not thinking about tomorrow. You're not thinking about yesterday. It's a beautiful thing. And it's just really fun. It's really fun to do that. Do I wish they paid us more? Do I wish there was a union? Why am I always walking downstairs? Why is it always sticky floors? Why does the club owners seem to be more worried about selling mozzarella sticks than promoting the comedy? Yes, all that shit is true. But at the end of the day, it's fun to change your face from this to this.
Can I just translate his faces real quick for our audio listeners? One looked like a bitter beer face, and the other one looked like Phil Mickelson all the time.
They're going to say Roger Federer all the time.
Well, that's it.
But the smile is just a manifestation, right? It's really about you're connecting. You are saying something that's resonating with the audience. In tennis, we talk a lot about adjusting, right? There are mid-match adjustments, and we have on-court coaching so a player can make adjustments. What are you doing on stage, mid-match, mid-set, when you're, when you're eating it, as all comics at some point do, when you're not feeling it from the audience? What are you doing to adjust in the middle of a comedy set?
Yeah, good question. There is, depends on what type of comedy you're doing and what type of comedian you are. I kind of go in with a game plan that I'm going to stick to 80% of the time. I definitely start politically up front. I want to see where we are, where we stand. I'll make fun of the left. I'll make fun of the right. I'll see where we're at. But then after that, a lot of this is my personal point of view, family experiences, living different places. And so that's pretty, there's not too much that needs to be adjusted. There were times when all I talked about was sex, and you would do your first sex joke and you're like, oh shit, this is going to be a long 25 minutes. This is going to be a long hour. They don't like it, or it's going to be an easy hour. When they're laughing, your time, the material you have goes even longer. You can do longer. When you're not laughing, the 30 minutes of material turns into 5 minutes. You are making adjustments, and so much of what happens as a comedian when you become more comfortable on stage is you are calm and composed, and you can make those adjustments because you know how to do that. But when you start bombing, sweat starts coming, armpits, ass, hamstrings, socks. I mean, I've bombed so hard, I've had to change my socks. And when that panic kicks in, I don't know if tennis is like that. I mean, I've certainly bombed on the court and, blown matches, but it sucks. It sucks. And man, is it personal. These are jokes you wrote. These are about your life. This is your heart. This is your mind that's being rejected. In tennis, sometimes it was like, the guy just played great. I can't like kill myself over that. You are making adjustments.
I was coached for a couple of years by a guy named Jimmy Connors, Michael Kosta, and he had this saying where like you'd be in practice and you would do something well, right? You would do what you were supposed to be doing. Some guy runs full sprint, picks one up off his ankles and hits a passing shot or something. And he would always say, operation successful, sometimes the patient dies, right? Like, so you kind of keep going. And I never forget that. I repeat it to anyone who will listen, where it's like, just because the result wasn't what you wanted, like, you know, it's like the good loss, right? When you lose 2-1 and 10 and unders, it's the same.
I love that. I love that.
One thing I want to get
you made me laugh at the Nashville, Andy, on the court. What did you say? It had to happen to someone, and it happened to you. That made me laugh. I forget what happened. Somebody took it. I never heard that before. That made me laugh.
Yeah, it was gonna happen. One thing I took away, because you spent a couple chapters on your college coach Craig Tiley, who is now the tournament director of the Aussie Open, the heaviest hand in tennis Australia, and he's done an amazing job from a business perspective. He's been a 12 out of 10 down there, always exploring, always curious, always looking to make changes in the positive way, thinking 5-10 years ahead. And you made this point where you were basically talking about him, and then you made the point, well, all tennis players are competitive. But with the parallel I drew from the way you described Craig is, we define competitive as someone gets on the court and you can see their sweat, you can see they're trying hard. But the thing that I took away from the Tiley chapters is, no. That's not competitive. That's trying really hard. But I always had a hard time on tour. You would see these hot prospects and they would give their all and they would really be like assholes and elbows for 2 hours during practice. And then in the 20 hours between practices, they thought about it zero, and they took zero accountability for. I think competitive was getting the right sleep. I viewed competitive as eating the right food, being organized. In the Tiley chapters kind of separated out. Everyone wants to win. Like, okay, you win, you lose, you choose win. Like, everyone can try hard, right? But I think real competitiveness is like, I guarantee you Iga Swiatek is sitting at home right now pissed off that she lost to Andreeva like last week, and she's working and doing. I think that's actual competitiveness. I think when we say competitiveness, we're actually talking about discipline a lot of the time. Is that true in comedy, or do you wing it a little bit more? Before we got on air, I'm guessing you're a little more organized because you're doing our podcast right now from the Daily Show studios. We shoot on Mondays to release on Tuesday mornings. But you said you're in on a Monday because that's the Jon Stewart day, and you're there just watching?
Learning, man. I mean, his morning meeting, you know, when you host the show, you have this morning meeting at 9 a.m. where you go over the clips and you kind of share your point of view about this stuff. And that's what starts to form the show for that night. On Mondays, this is what I love about Jon Stewart. He walks in, shuts the door behind him like a college professor, and starts. And I sit there and I look up like a little boy looking at his father and just go like, he's got a plan. He's ready. He's launched. And then I start to get pissed at myself that I don't walk in the door that way. You know, I walk in going, what clips do we have? What's my take on this? I mean, and so I'm just like not trying. And this is what's so dangerous in comedy. You can't copy someone. Never. I mean, that's like the rule. If there's any rule in comedy, you don't steal and you don't copy. But what can I take from him? He walks in with such a plan. You bring up such a good point about Craig. I mean, Craig used to get furious when the other coaches at Illinois would say, hey, Craig, how come you always get the best athletic trainer? Why is your academic advisor always the best one? And Craig would get furious. And you go, you think that's a coincidence? Do you think that that's just because I got assigned the best? That's what this job is. Every little facet I'm going to do, like you said, 12 out of 10. I hope he likes the chapter on him. I mean, I didn't write it so he would. I still have father issues with Craig. I can't walk down a street in New York and see a piece of trash on the ground and not think Craig's telling you to pick it up. I mean, he's just in our head. I mean, the Illinois tennis team still has a group text where it's like, man, we have issues with Craig. I mean, we still think about him and he still influences us. But also, I talk about in the book, at one point, he left me a voicemail that said, hey man, I just saw a comedian on TV and you were much funnier than him. If you ever want to do comedy, you should do that. You'd be great at that. That little seed planted in my head, that might be why I'm sitting here. So very, very influential, positive guy, coach who also fucks with your head a little bit.
It's like the Lorne Michaels of college tennis.
Yeah, yes.
You want to tell, because Craig has actually told this story about you. Do you want to briefly tell the Santa Monica Pier story? I mean, I think it was a promenade, actually. Santa Monica Promenade.
Yeah, he used to do all these team challenges, and one of them one year we were in Santa Monica, California, was which of you, they have all these street performers out there, which of you can procure the most amount of money in your street performance. None of us really had any other skills other than tennis. So I just bought a American flag Speedo swimsuit in Venice Beach and wore that and goofed around on the stage, or not stage, the street for a little bit. And I think I made like $12 or something. So that's not bad. That's actually more than I got my first comedy set, now that I think about it.
Michael, thank you for coming on. I hope everyone gives this book a read. I don't think you need to be an absolute tennis nerd to take something away from this book. You don't need to know that the teammate that said he was going to win the U.S. Open that didn't, last name is Ramey. You don't need to know that Graydon, who said he needed your car when you were driving to lose to Jack Brasington, said, take someone else's car. You don't need to know that the party at Carrie's was Carrie Franklin's. I can only assume. You need to know zero of those details to take something away from this book. I'm fascinated by how you start in one thing and then all of a sudden you become successful in another thing, but all the while kind of not forgetting about the connective tissue that we all share, regardless of what we say or do. Everyone go out and check this book out, March 11th. It is called Lucky Loser. There he is right there. Michael Kosta, Tennis Anyone podcast. I guess if you're done listening to this one and you still have an appetite for more, you can go check that one out. MichaelKosta.com. Go see his tour dates and go laugh at him. We can say that now, right? Don't do it in tennis, but definitely go laugh at him.
You can definitely laugh at me. I encourage it. Andy, I was playing a future, deep Mexico second round qualifying when you won the US Open, and we were all sitting in the tiny, no air conditioned tournament director / athletic trainer / future area watching you win. And I just, it's a privilege to even know you and chat with you. And I'll never forget that. I was at like the bowling alley version of tennis watching the pinnacle. And now we both have podcasts. So that's weird. But thank you for having me.
Awesome. Everyone go check out Michael Kosta. Lucky Loser, everyone, March 11th. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, guys.
All right, welcome back to Serve. I thought that was really fun with Michael Kosta. It's such a unique view of different universes and worlds. And JW, you guys are kind of buddies, right? Up there in the New York city of things.
Up there in the New York area. Yeah, we again, I saw him in Columbus, Ohio, like God, it was almost 20 years ago, and we've stayed in touch. He's very funny, and I like the way he. I think there are a lot of people that get into tennis and then suddenly that's in the rearview mirror. He still clearly is gripped by this sport. And, there's a limit. You're not going to go on the Daily Show and do 5 minutes about Mirra Andreeva and Fonseca, but this is someone who's stayed with tennis, even though he has a new career.
Yeah, I thought it was very cool. I've read the book. I like it. I liked it because I could relate to it a lot, even though we share like zero path similarity past like the age of like 15, but I still enjoyed it. And obviously I like what he's done. I think it's really cool how he's kind of reinvented himself into something, all the while not forgetting about, big foundational blocks of his life that existed in tennis. Guys, big stuff to announce.
Oh yeah?
We got a big one. We got a big show, guys.
Oh baby.
So our show that is released on, what'll it be, March 11th? Is that the Tuesday? Is that a Tuesday?
Correct. Yeah, it'll be mid-Indian Wells.
So I'm going down, producer Mike, Techie Sean doesn't know he's going yet. Talk to JW, but we're going down to join a guy named Rafa. What? For a sit down? Oh my God. Did you hear Techie Sean come to life there? That's what he sounds like, everyone.
Check your passport, buddy.
Yeah. Oh, that would be tragic. What if his passport was expired and he couldn't go?
I might need to go check that.
We're going to have Rafa. We're going to go down and have a conversation with him. Obviously hasn't talked much post-retirement. I have so many questions that I want answered. The nuts and bolts of what made him tick, what it's like post-retirement, what the last year of his career was like, the adjustments that you make from clay to grass, and all the things that he made look so easy. I won't say effortless because you could always see the effort with him, but I am pumped. Not a lot. Like I kind of like being in our little studio. I like staying home. The opportunity to go sit with him and nerd out. I'm on a plane. We're doing that show.
It's gonna be awesome.
You're not going to. We should say this, but first of all, upside down exclamation points all over. This will be a good one. You're also not going to Sandusky, Ohio. This is you get a nice trip out of this.
Yeah, that's
Zell Punta Cana,
which is his new. He has a hotel. He's just doing all the things. He's selling shares of Tennis Academy. Like he's just continuing to win. He's like DJ Khaled.
It's so nice doing
if DJ Khaled had won like 22 slams, 14 Roland
another
Garros. Yeah, and another one. And otro más. Anyways, I cannot wait to go talk to Rafa. I think we have an hour with him. We'll see how much, but I think I could ask him 3 hours worth of questions, and I'm going to have to really prioritize what I'm curious about versus what I think you all as listeners will be curious about. But I'm excited. Obviously, I'm a tennis nerd. I can't wait. And I also kind of like that now we kind of lie a lot when we're active players. Like we have to protect certain things. I'll tell you my arm feels better than it does. I'll tell you I still think I can win something because I hope I can win something, but that's not quite belief. It's when people retire, you kind of get a more honest accounting, and he was one of the most honest as it was. I can't wait to hear kind of this post-retirement. Let's rip the Band-Aid off. Let's get into the nuts and bolts of things. So Rafa will be the show out on March 11th. We're going to do an Indian Wells preview next week. We did a little bit last year. I'll kind of re-up the conditions, what we're looking for, what the players will experience, how that tournament will look without Jannik Sinner, who are the favorites, so on, so forth. Everyone, thanks for your help, and we'll see you next week on Serve.